it's often been said before that we have to become divine scientists, divine physicists, divine alchemists. It can also be added to that we have to know and understand the arcane laws, the mysteries, so-called. And we cannot know and understand those laws and those mysteries until we've experienced within us stillness and movement, and understand what happens when stillness and movement meet. You know, over these years now, there's been quoted that saying, and we've been traversing this saying, as you've no doubt recognized. But let's pinpoint exactly where we are in our awareness of this saying now, and perhaps the story will illuminate more what it is that we need to recognize from that location. Take all perceptions from the aesthetic, from the, what is it again?
Transcendental.
Nitty-gritty.
Yes.
Very on the transcendental.
Yes.
No.
No.
The subtle level.
It is subtle.
Yes.
Subtle.
No, come on. No, this is the test for you, love.
Having
Having said this, and you can't even remember.
something,
What is it? What's that word? Take all perceptions from the
something, it's like the three levels.
From
Yeah.
body,
Mind,
three
mind.
levels.
It's a speech of vibration, but this word, I've forgotten all the way through. Now I go, why is she
To the
doing
subtle
this now?
levels.
the sensual, no sensuality, you lot.
The essential, the aesthetic. Essentially aesthetic and the transcendental.
Take all perceptions from the sensual, the aesthetic and the transcendent levels of mind, and bring them to the subtle level of body, speech and mind. The body of appearances, the speech of vibrations, and the mind of awareness. From where they flow down, the columns at the side of the spine, positive, negative sides of the spine, where they meet and seemingly cancel each other out and rise up in the central column as our thoughts and our deeds. Now let's take ourselves to this place where perceptions go, through those columns that have been cleaned of their conditioning, to meet at the base of the spine. What happens at the base of the spine? What happens to give trajectory to that which is a response that comes up through that central column of pure mind, to come out as an enactment of what we could call the divine will?
Cancel each other out as they
Yes.
coming together, unity and wholeness.
Yes,
It's unity of existence.
right.
There's no overcoming separation.
Yes. The Hafiz, the poet, calls it the ground of unknowing where the rose always blooms. So, at this place, at the figurative base of the spine, where perceptions and the experiences of life have entered, pass down the columns and meet. And instead of being a reaction, there's a response that passes up the central column. But what happens at that point at the base of the spine? There was a story told the other day, and it's relevant to today, because now we can take this story to another level, and you can see for yourself, and it perhaps will give you an answer as to the question you asked the other day. Let's see what it does for us in bringing an understanding of what it is that occurs at this place. We need to know. that place of unknowing where the rose ever blooms, is the place where our responses arise from. But what is it? What happens when perceptions go in, pass through the channels, cancel each other out, and meet? What is it meets? What is it there that evokes the response in us, that is in harmony with all of the laws that are present in creation? The story is a Sufi story, and it's been said before that to the experience of this body, the Sufi stories embody the mysteries, the laws, but they have levels that can be understood at whatever place you're at in the scheme of things. But let's go to the core now of these Sufi stories, this Sufi story, and see what it brings for us. It's the story of that monarch, the Sultan, who lived in that great land used to be called Persia. And he had 3 sons, princes, but he also had a daughter, a beautiful daughter, whom he loved and adored. But one day he called his daughter to him and said, "My beloved daughter, you are now of marriageable age, and I have sent messages throughout all the lands to call the princes of all places, and you must choose a worthy husband." As soon as the princess heard these words, she fell into a dead faint at his feet. Her handmaidens came along, tried to revive her, took her off to the harem, but nothing they could do could bring her back to consciousness. So the Sultan sent his 3 sons far and wide to bring in the physicians, the sorcerers, the pundits, to try to waken his beautiful daughter. But none of them, with all the lotions and potions and spells and incantations, could bring her back. The Sultan was desperate. But one day, an old hermit with ragged sandals and wearing a patched work cloak designating his dervishhood, so to speak, came along and said, "I can save your daughter." Sultan was immediately inspired. "Please tell me, what is it we have to do?" The dervish said, "Bring me into her presence and bring along with you a scribe." So they went into the presence of the sleeping princess. And the dervish knelt down beside her bed and very gently took her hand and put his fingers on her pulse. And then he bent down and whispered in her ear, "Bokhara, Cairo, Eastern." Nothing happened. Samarkand, a spike in her pulse. Dervish turned around to the scribe and said, "Write down Samarkand." And he bent down again and said, "Diamonds, rubies, silver, gold, nothing. Pearls, a big spike in the pulse. Write down pearl merchant in Samarkand." The Sultan says, "Pearl merchant in Samarkand? What does that mean? If he's harmed my daughter, I'll have his head." "Patience, patience," said the dervish. And he bent down again. Hussein, Yusuf, Muhammad, nothing. Ahmad. Pulse spike and the eyes open. Sultan's irate. Who is this Ahmad, pearl merchant in Samarkand? Dervish said, ask her yourself, she's awake. So Sultan turned around and Princess had tears running down her face. Oh, beloved father, remember at our son's wedding, you invited all the merchants from everywhere to bring their jewels so that we could be decked in the finest array. I fell in love with the Ahmad, the pearl merchant in Samarkand, and we want to be wed. No, sir. Get over that, said the Sultan. You have to become a queen. Just forget this pearl merchant in Samarkand. And then the Sultan turned to the dervish and he said, I promised you that if you could heal my daughter, I would give you whatever it was that you requested of me. Ask anything, and if it is in my means to give you, I will do so. The dervish said, the only thing that's acceptable to me is that you allow your daughter to wed a pearl merchant in Samarkand. And so, of course, the Sultan could do nothing else but fulfill his promise. And, you know, as these stories go, the princess married a pearl merchant, Ahmad, and Allah allowed them to have many sons. And the question that was asked at meditation the other day when the story was told was, what does the dervish represent? But if we take this story now to its deeper level, relative to this place at the base of our spine, this ground of unknowing where the rose always blooms, according to the great poetry of Hafiz. How does this dervish relate to this meeting place? What is the role? What did the dervish do? He wasn't a sorcerer, he wasn't a magician, he wasn't a physician.
Interpreter. He was an interpreter.
Right,
It's like he was the hole in the flute.
right. Absolutely. Right. So we get a clue now. We get a clue as to how we can understand these arcane laws, these mysteries. And it comes from our own experience of everyday life. Because it happens every time we have perceptual input and experience, the same thing happens. We've done our homework. The channels at the side of our spine, the subjective and objective, male, female, positive and negative, have been scraped clean by our endeavors, the karmic accretions and the conditionings. So what goes down is not picking up the garbage on the way. So it's cleaned. Representative of cleaning the nadis and all of that in Hindu terms. But now we're down here at the base of the spine. We know the process. We can watch that at every moment. And we know now that there's no reaction, just a response. But where does that response come from? And why does it contain what it contains? Sometimes to our great surprise, oh, never thought of that, I wonder where that came from. It's happening very often for us, isn't it? So let's put the two together. This story and our understanding now. What happens when process perceptual awareness takes place? Let's explore it and see where it takes us. And in the meantime, because of its enactment, we come to know these arcane laws. They go together. What was the dervish doing?
Wasn't he communicating with the subconscious and bring it into consciousness?
Do you think so?
Because he felt that pulse and
Putting
From-
the pieces
from
of this
this-
puzzle together?
unconscious person he took for the information.
Isn't that the mind's job?
Could be.
Put all the pieces of awareness together in a coherency? So it is a perception that goes in? Right, that's the mind's job. But that's not what he was doing. But he was using the mind in the way that it was supposed to be used.
He was giving options. He was actually offering different options, and there was a spontaneous response
Uh-huh.
from the heart,
Right.
a recognition.
Or from that place that we're talking about.
Drawing truth out.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So the perceptions come in and meet with divine awareness, and then divine awareness responds according to what those perceptions are being interpreted.
Right, okay. Now we're cooking with gas.
Say that
Yeah,
again,
couldn't
Giselle.
hear it.
I didn't hear it at all.
Turn around, face the class.
Don't be shy.
I just said the perceptions which come down purely because the channels have been purified, come down and meet with divine awareness, and divine awareness being brought those perceptions then takes them and gives the appropriate response accordingly. Back up the channel purely.
So there's literally an impulse. You work with the pulse.
Work with the pulse, yes, I mean, yes, a wonderful coining of a phrase, beautiful. Yes.
He's avoided the conscious mind in doing so, spoke directly to the heart. The pulse comes from the heart. I think it was her deepest wishes that maybe even she would not be fully aware of. I don't know if the heart and the subconscious are the same.
Yes, well, she did say, I was afraid to tell you this was my secret. So when we look at in the story at its other levels, we can see that there are aspects of herself, the princess, the sons, the father, the dervish, they're all facets of self.
So that's the way of divine awareness, which is all pervasive, all knowing, can give a specific response to what's specifically present in any given present.
But instead of analysing it, just go from our own experience. We're living it. We're evoking from that place where stillness and movement meet the enactment of these arcane laws at every moment. We can see it, experience it, and therefore have the ability to understand it for ourselves. So go from your experiences, know where we're going to get if we try to analyse with our minds.
Can we stay drunk in God's tavern?
Yes, that's it. Welcome, anytime.